WordPress on steroids on today's School of Podcasting's morning announcements, episode number 116.
It's the School of Podcasting's morning announcements. Here's Dave Jackson.
Welcome aboard to the School of Podcasting's morning announcements. I am your personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson. You can check us out at schoolofpodcasting.com. All of our show notes are at shownotes.schoolofpodcasting.com. My email is dave@schoolofpodcasting.com, and my toll-free number, courtesy of podcastvoicemail.com, is 888-563-3228. And don't forget, now through December 25th, that's right around the corner, you can get 25% off your membership fee at theschoolofpodcasting.com using the coupon code SANTA. Yeah, check it out. And don't forget that you can try the School of Podcasting risk-free for 30 days. Now, what are we talking about today on the School of Podcasting? We're talking about a tool that allows you to really easily, customize WordPress themes. It's a WordPress tool that has built in, it's basically WordPress on steroids, and I'm going to tell you the pros. It has some pretty cool pros and kind of the cons of it. So that's all on today's School of Podcasting's morning announcement. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Dave Jackson, and like a well-oiled machine, your body is the perfect engine. However, if you put the wrong food into it over a long period of time, you're going to face significant consequences. I know, because I have. Are you like me? You're just too busy to exercise, just too much life in the way? Maybe you're thinking about buying that new latest diet pill that's supposed to erase, block, and dissolve fat and make you thin in just a few days. Order now! Look, it's time to face facts. There is no pill that works in a healthy way with long-term benefits. It's up to you. I'm going to lose 25 pounds, and I'm going to show you how. You can watch and listen to me on the Logical Weight Loss Podcast at logicalloss.com. If I can do it, so can you. Live right, lose weight, live long. It's really that simple. Logical Weight Loss Podcast at logicalloss.com. Come on, you can do it. Right, because you know your New Year's resolution, which might include losing some weight, is probably right around the corner. Hey, if you are not a Podcast Clicks user, fast forward about 2 minutes, because I'm going to talk about Podcast Clicks. What was it? Well, it was a free banner exchange program for podcasters. It was cross-promotion. You put a piece of code on your website, and you displayed banners for other podcasters. They put a piece of code on their website, and they promoted your podcast along with other podcasters. So it was a cross-promotion thing. It was free, and due to some technical difficulties, I have pulled the site pretty much down at this point. If you go to podcastclicks.com right now, you'll see there's a Google group there. And I just want to let everybody know that it is coming back in January. We sent thousands of clicks to podcasters, and hopefully that translated into new listeners. But I had some technical difficulties. The server I was on was horrible. Blah, blah, blah. Boring stuff. Don't want to bore you with it. Just want to let you know, if you're a Podcast Clicks user and you didn't get my email, you should have. The site's going to be going dark here probably by the end of this week. So you want to go and pull that code off your website. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a blank space on your blog. And want to make sure everybody is aware of that. And that will be back in January, if not sooner. Sign up over at podcastclicks.com in the Google group to be alerted when it comes back online. All right, so what is this WordPress tool that you speak of, Dave? Well, you can find it at wordpresstool.com. It's from a company called Semiologic. And here's what it is, basically in a nutshell. It's from a guy named Denis D. Bernardi. He's from London, really nice guy. And what he's done is he's taken WordPress, which is an open source product. He's kind of tweaked it, and he's tweaked it for search engine optimization, which basically means it's making your blog even more Google food than blogs already are. It's got built-in things like ping notifications. It's got multiple page entries that lets you further optimize the length and keyword density of your content. Built-in tagging, which I realize now is in 2.3, but it also has built-in meta tagging, which is pretty cool. One of the things I really like about it, it's got this cool advertising plugin that he wrote himself, and you can go in and say, look, if somebody comes from my from a Google search, show this ad. However, if it's somebody that's coming back to my website who was here within the last week, don't show them the ad. Or put this other ad in its place. It's really a versatile ad system. Very, very cool. That is cool. It's got, it's very easily to put in Google Analytics built into it. Very cool. It's got, it has its own advanced visitor tracking tool system, which I like. The one thing I really like about it is if you've ever used widgets in WordPress, you can customize you can customize where you want stuff to go. Like you can actually say, look, let me put the header here. Here's my header image, and you just upload it. And then I want the menus to go above the header. No, wait, I want them to go below the header. There we go. Then I want my player to go underneath that. Oh, and then you can go in and say, look, on every entry, I want to show this, that, and this. So if you want something to be repeated, like an advertisement if you wanted to, at the end of each blog, you could. Now you got to be careful with that, because if you end up with nothing but advertisements all over your blog, who wants to read that? But if you, let's say you had a product, and at the end of the product you wanted to say, hey, get 25% off of your membership fee at the School of Podcasting using the coupon code Santa, you could have that under each blog entry as a text or a graphic or whatever you wanted. And then you can go in then, see, you're telling the system, run ad number 1. So if you go in later and delete ad number 1, yeah, it takes it off the blog. How cool is that? So a lot of automated stuff in it. So I love the widget part of it, because you can really go in and just drag and drop and make different navigation menus. And that part of the layout is very cool. You can say, look, I want 2 columns. I want a big column. I want the column on the left. No, I want it on the right. I want it on the bottom. I want to customize the footer. Very, very easy. That part is very easy. Now, what it does, the power of it is you are customizing the way things look via what's called cascading style sheets. And I have to warn you right now, it's a geek alert. And I'm going to try to just breeze over this without turning it into uber geekness. But basically, it's a little manager back there that says, look, when you go to make the navigation bar, would you make the background orange and make the title text, can you make that red? So this way, if you say put the sidebar on the left or the right, it doesn't matter. The color is set up by this cascading style sheet. It's called CSS. I'm going to call it CSS from this point out. So you go into the CSS file and say, okay, do this, and while you're at it, make the make the heading a little bigger. Do this, do that. Would you please center this? Would you please center that? So that's the uber geek part. So you have to kind of understand the CSS, and that's where the good news is he just came out with 5.0. And you can find this at wordpresstool.com. That's my affiliate link for the Semiologic system. And it is $295. So it's not cheap, but the cool thing is when you buy that, if you have multiple blogs and multiple podcasts, you can use it on any and all of your sites. That part I really liked, and that was actually the final thing that I went, okay. Because I've been using this with different clients that they purchased it, and I finally went, okay, I'm going to jump into the Semiologic pool here at wordpresstool.com. So I like that part of it, because this way, if you change anything, your style, say the face of your podcast, the colors of it, the way it's laid out, stays the same. Unless you go in and say, okay, do this, do that. And they've also added more what are called skins, which what we would normally call themes in WordPress. They're now called skins with this WordPress tool. So now, me personally, maybe it's a case of I learned how to kind of hack WordPress before, so learning now how to hack the WordPress tool, I'm kind of frustrated with it a little bit, but I kind of got the grip of it. The problem is that it's all of your eggs are in the Denis basket. Denis wrote it. Denis is the guy behind it, and as Denis gets hit by a bus, we're all in a world of hurt. Case in point, right now, Denis had his laptop stolen, and he is relying on the support area. Now, there's a big forum for Semiologic, and they're very helpful. And they do have different, I don't want to say he's not supporting it, but there are times when it's one guy. I guess that's the thing that worries me about it. If Denis gets hit by a bus, we're all kind of like, well, that was fun. It's not going to update. So all your eggs are in the Denis basket. That's a nice basket. A very nice basket. And at times, he does update it a lot. Because I know about, if you would have asked me about this about 3 weeks ago, I would have went, hate Semiologic. Because I was working on the bleeding edge beta version, and all those widgets that I was talking about kept kind of doing this squirrely stuff. Now, I've not seen the squirrely stuff since he's released this latest version. But he does update it a lot, and that's one of the cool things. See, I think it's the Google Translator doesn't work with WordPress 2.3. With the Semiologic, with the WordPress-tool.com system, he makes sure that all the plugins, and that's the cool thing, as opposed to installing WordPress and then installing all the plugins, when you install the WordPress tool, it is basically installing WordPress. In fact, you install WordPress through whoever it is you have. If you're using cooler websites and use the Fantastico system, you've got WordPress installed, then you install the WordPress tool on top of WordPress. And that then installs a cornucopia of plugins. So you have things like a Google, all sorts of Google Analytics, Google, yes, the sitemap. There's all sorts of tracking and hit counters and statistics as things like that. So it's a very powerful tool. Now, I think I just found out something new, and I saw this from Denis on a post. Originally, I thought this did not work with PodPress. And what I believe it is PodPress. Now, he has his own media player. It's called Mediacaster. And it works for both audio and video. And much like PodPress, it has some iTunes coding built into it. The only thing I hate about it is PodPress, much like the One Pixel player, is cool looking, and the Mediacaster is butt ugly. But it works. And I originally thought you couldn't use PodPress with Semiologic, and I believe you can, but remember how I said it's very search engine friendly? It makes Google, it's like a Google magnet. There's a slot in there for what are called meta tags, and again, it's a geek alert here, but it's Google food. And if you don't enter something in there, the PodPress player may not show up on that post. I think I found that. And that's not really a WordPress tool problem as it is a PodPress problem. And speaking of that, I'm starting to think there's a problem with PodPress. I mentioned this in my last podcast. I've got 2 people I'm working with. I loaded PodPress, and when I go to validate their feed, all the invalid parts are from PodPress. So if you've installed the latest version of PodPress, go back and make sure your feed is validated at feedvalidator.org. I'm really starting to have issues with PodPress, which again would be a good reason to use the Mediacaster, even if it is not so pretty in that. So what are the pros of this program? Well, number one, it's once you get the color of your website, and again, it's a pretty geeky thing to do. It has a number of schemes, like you can say I want it red, I want it blue, I want it green, things like that. To just go with a basic plugin, and then you can upload your graphics and things like that, which makes it pretty easy. I think they have 12 different designs now, and it's again very easy to pick your layout. If you want without changing a theme, now you can say I want the sidebar on the left, no the right, or I want 2 sidebars, or I want both sidebars on the right, things like that. That seriously, a couple mouse clicks, very easy to customize the layout of your website. That's the very cool thing. Plus, it's got the built-in capabilities with Google Analytics, its own tracking items, as well as all the plugins that come pre-configured for business for maximum search engine optimization. The cons, if you don't like these pre-made ones, what I've been working with people is customizing the CSS. And what I've found is most of the time that if you follow their directions, you can customize the CSS. Now, I will be the first to admit I'm not a CSS guru. I have done plenty of Semiologic themes that you just follow the directions and it works. I'm on one right now. I can't get the header to center. And I've followed what's on the support forum, and I've sent an email to support, and right now I'm still waiting. Again, so the only possible downside of this is all my eggs are in the Denis basket. But on the other hand, once I get this up and running, I'm not going to need Denis. So it's kind of one of those situations. Once it gets up and running, it's pretty cool. I know I like it. I'm going to be switching a lot of my my blogs over to this. I'm kind of testing the waters with that as I get to use it more and more. I just know I love the fact that I can go in and customize where things are by simply dragging and dropping things. So that's my thoughts on the WordPress tool. You can find that at wordpresstool.com. Again, it's from a company called Semiologic and Semiologic Pro, and it's $295. But keep in mind, again, if you have multiple blogs, multiple podcasts, you can put that on every single one of those. So that in itself is kind of a unique way of marketing it and your use of the software. So it really does bring out the full SEO potential of WordPress. So I've been using it now for a couple weeks, and like I said, I've been using it in the past with different clients that have purchased it as I dip my toe in it. And the thing that finally got me to buy it is, while I wish there was more documentation on how to customize this CSS, I almost want to go to Elance and hire somebody to make a WYSIWYG editor that says, do you want things on the left, right, or center? What color do you want the background to be? What color do you want this to be? And just go through a series of questions and then spit out a CSS file that you upload into the WordPress tool, and boom, there's your CSS. I seriously want to do that. Because if that was there, this would be a no-brainer. That's the only stumbling block. And there are people, he has resources there to have people that if you want to hire somebody to do the CSS stuff for you, they are there as well. And of course, that's something, depending on how much customization you want to do, that's something I have been tackling with different people. So that's it, before I ramble on again. Thank you very much for tuning into the School of Podcasting. Now, you're going to notice something here that I missed last week. Yeah, I did. For the first time ever. And this is my other tip. As the holidays come upon us, you may or may not keep on your schedule. And what I've been doing lately is I've been going out. You ought to do this. Go search for your podcast, okay, and then in iTunes, and then see what other people are listening to, that little kind of suggestion tool they have. If you start popping around with that, I've been really discovering, or trying to discover, new podcasts. I'm just on the kick for that, for whatever reason. And I listened to this one marketing podcast. I'm not going to give the name because in reality, I don't remember what it was because I unsubscribed. But literally 7 minutes into the podcast, we did not have one thing about podcasting. And what we were talking about her cold, her trip to the doctor, all sorts of other things, her personal thing. And I understand, I'm with you on this. Giving a little bit of yourself. I was talking about this on Today in Podcasting. There's a podcast you might want to check out, todayinpodcasting.com. And Rob Walsh from Podcast 411 said, people really liked it when he started talking about him trying to have a child and giving some of his personal information. And that's true. But my point here is, I'm telling you now that I missed a week. I keep running into these podcasts going, man, guys, I'm really sorry. I know I was away for 2 weeks, but the kids were down with the flu, and then my job, and blah, blah, blah. Realize there are people out there now. Podcasting is growing. Don't make that your first impression. Do what I'm trying to do now, which is saying, hey, I missed you guys last week. I hope you missed the show. I had my final exams for my college exams. If you're a regular listener, I'm working on my second degree. I will be done next year with that, and I will have a bachelor's degree in education specializing in tech ed. So in case you ever wonder, that's what I'm doing there. And I will be done with that next year. And I couldn't handle finals and the podcast and the live weekly webinar at the School of Podcasting. So we kept the live weekly webinar, but I'm sorry I lost the podcast. And that's something else. My last point here as we get out the door, because I realize I'm kind of rambling here. Something I thought about. Because I've always been, and I still believe this, when you're starting a podcast, get a schedule and stick to it. But there is a certain point where I think if you're happy with your audience size, you can get away with, if it's weekly, you can get away going every other week. Because I thought about it. Some of my favorite podcasts, Dan Class, The Bitterest Pill, one of my favorite podcasts. He's a great storyteller. He puts out one about one a month, 2 a month, maybe. It's not weekly, I know that. Digital Flotsam, PW, Benton, love that podcast. That guy will go months without putting out a podcast. But you know what? When I look in my aggregator and I look in iTunes and I see there's a new one, that's the first one I listen to. And I was on a phone call on the New Media Matters Show.com. It was myself, Paul Colligan, Jason Van Orden, and Tim Berkwin. And Jason is another podcast I listen to. He's got Internet Business Mastery. If you're into internet marketing and things like that, he does one about 1 or twice a month. So he's not sticking to a theme, but he's not making it go. I don't think I would go less than one a month, because people will forget about you, and they'll go, if they're hungry for that information, they may go looking someplace else. But this is where I say, if you've got 6 months under your belt, they can go to iTunes and say, get all. And they got 6 months, of material to chomp through while you go and find a new show. So I'm thinking about that point. Is there a point where, if you're happy with your audience, you can go to a intermittent schedule and it won't hurt your listenership? What do you think about that? I'm starting to think that may be the case. Because why? Because some of my favorite shows are on an intermittent schedule, and I'm not unsubscribing. I'm not going, that doggone Dan Class, he should get off his butt. No, Dan's a stay-at-home dad. And when he puts out a show, key point, they're classic. Dan Class, classic. P.W. Fenton, classic stuff. Sterling and Jay, good stuff. Maybe that's the key, huh? I don't know. You tell me. 888-563-3228. You can email me, Dave, at schoolofpodcasting.com. One last shameless plug. Bear with me. Get 25% off your membership fee at theschoolofpodcasting.com using the coupon code SANTA. Now through December 25th. I really do appreciate you tuning in. And until we meet again, class dismissed.